Hello and welcome to my checkers strategy guide. For the sake of this video, I'll be talking about American checkers or English drafts. First, I would like to talk about some rules and regulations for those of you who might not know all of them. First and most important in my opinion is the rule that you always have to capture a checker if it is possible. Here we can see this. If we move like this, my opponent has a capture available, which is 18 to 11. If they wanted to try to move another one of their pieces to get a better positioning, they are not allowed to. They must make this move. It's the same for me, as I'll have to capture his piece back. This will be very important for some of our later strategies. Another thing to note is that you can double jump. If you have a legal jump, let's say from 8 to 15 here, and after that jump there is another legal jump that your checker can make, you can do both of them. Here we see me getting a double jump. Double jumps do not have to be in a straight line, as I just showed. They can also be diagonal like this. A legal jump is from 11 to 18, and it is also possible for me to go from 18 to 27. So if I were to move my piece, I can get both of them. There are also triple jumps, however they are much less likely. Here we can see that now. Next is the fact that if you get one of your checkers to the back row of any of your opponent's back row, 32, 31, 30, or 29 for him, 4, 3, 2, or 1, you can make a piece into a king. Here we can see moving back towards it, and now I have a king. The symbol will change between different checker boards and different checker pieces, but it will always look different than normal checkers. Normal checkers have the disadvantage of only being able to move forward. They cannot move backwards. However, if we look here, this king can move back to 31 or 30. Kings are very important and very strong. They can help you win games, and that's why it is important to always try to make sure your opponent does not get kings. This ties into one of my first tips. For tip number 1, it is that you should try to keep your back row intact. This way, your opponent cannot move into your back row pieces and get kings. It is not always the best choice to keep your back row intact, and you can move them off the back row. If you want to move your pieces up towards your opponent's side of the board and go more towards the center of a board, as it is a very important part of the game, then you can do so. This leads into my second tip. You always want to have control of the center of the board. If we look here, 11 has the option to move to 2 places, 16 or 15, but a piece on the side of the board only has the option to move to 16. That means a piece in the center of the board has 2 times the amount of moves as a piece on the side of the board. Also, having pieces in the center of the board allows for more movement around the board, and it can help for later in the game. Also, it is important to note that you do not want to move pieces one at a time. The best reason for this is that here we can see he has more pieces behind him. I cannot make this trade here. I can only move up to here. I could have moved other pieces, but next turn he would have been able to capture this piece anyways. Here, you can see that if I had a piece here, I could not move here. He's using other pieces to his advantage. As if I keep on moving pieces up towards here, he is getting free trades that I cannot do anything about. It's important to move pieces with each other so you limit your opponent's options and can manipulate his pieces around the board to give you better positioning and better trades against your opponent. Another tip to know about is to always think ahead. This is one of my most important tips, I believe, as thinking ahead is a very important part of checkers. You want to always think what moves your opponent can make off of your moves. You want to think where checkers will be, and you always want to try to get ahead in the amount of checkers you have. As the more checkers you have, the better advantage you have and more moves you can make. It is also important to know that stalling is a very important part of this game. If my opponent has less checkers than me and I have more checkers to move around and I can stall, I can wait for my opponent to make more bad moves than me. Next, I will get on to talking about some actual strategies. First, I'd like to show you the X strategy. The reason it's called this, as you make an X shape we can see here. your opponent must have 2 checkers directly above your X shape, and while they can have any amount of checkers back here that they would like, for me showing the strategy, they are not needed. For the strategy, you can either move 15 to 18 or 14 to 18. The strategy can be placed anywhere on the board, but you must move one of the top 2 pieces that you control to the middle. This forces your opponent to make a trade. He cannot move 23 and make this trade, so he'll have to do 22 to 15. This allows me for a double jump. I have traded 2 for 2, but I have also gotten a piece farther into a side of the board, and I had more pieces together. I have more pieces back here together. The same can be done with the other side, and this gives us some versatility on how we can move it. So here, if I move 14 to 18, we can do it on the other side, as we can see. This is very useful in games and can be made very quickly into a game within the first couple of moves. I'll show you that now. Here we can see we have new pieces, so he has no moves possible. If we were to move up, we can see we have created the X shape here. We have these 2 pieces, and we have the blank space behind them. That is another important part, is there must be an empty space behind them for me to jump into. One thing to note here is that if I move 15 to 18, the left side to the middle in this case, he jumps 22 over 18 to 15. 10 cannot jump over 15 to 19. This is important to note, as you cannot always do either side. You must look to see which is better. So let's move 14 to 18, take the trade here. We have an open spot 17, open spot 26. We can get the double trade. Now my opponent is forced to make one of his back rows move out. He can choose either one, but it does not matter. We have created an open space in your opponent's back line. This is very important, as we talked about, because kings are very strong in this game. We can now try for the rest of the game to move our pieces towards this back spot and get kings. With this spot open, our opponent is forced to make trades that would allow us not to get kings, as they are very powerful. Also, he has just made the move to capture this point, so I can come up behind and protect my 15, not losing another piece to him. Another similar strategy is the line strategy. It is used with 3 checkers in a line. It uses less pieces like the other, but it uses less pieces than the X, but the checkers up above it must be farther apart, and you cannot have 2 choices on either moving your left or right. For the strategy, you must move your top piece here towards the left piece. It is the same basis as you're forcing your opponent to take it, and you are allowing yourself to get a double jump. This double jump puts a piece very far into your opponent's back line and can be used sort of like the X strategy we have talked about. These are only some of the strategies involved in checkers. You can research more about them, but these are some of my favorite and most basic strategies. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day.